CNBC at lunchtime. The advent of the financial television channel CNBC presented plenty of benefits to the financial community, but it also allowed a collection of extrovert practitioners long on theories to voice them in a few minutes of television time. One often sees respectable people making ludicrous but smart-sounding statements about properties of the stock market. Among these are statements that blatantly violate the laws of probability. One summer during which I was assiduous at the health club, I often heard statements such as, "The real market is only 10% off the highs, while the average stock is close to 40% off its highs," which is intended to be indicative of deep troubles or anomalies, some harbinger of bear markets. There is no incompatibility between the fact that the average stock is down 40% from the highs, while the average of all stocks, that is, the market, is down 10% from its own highs. One must consider that the stocks did not all reach their highs at the same time. Given that stocks are not 100% correlated, stock A might reach its maximum in January. Stock B might reach its maximum in April. But the average of the two stocks, A and B, might reach its maximum at some point in February. Furthermore, in the event of negatively correlated stocks, if stock A is at its maximum when stock B is at its minimum, then they could both be down 40% from their maximum when the stock market is at its highs. By a law of probability called distribution of the maximum of random variables, the maximum of an average is necessarily less volatile than the average maximum. Dead by now. This brings to mind another common violation of probability by prime-time TV financial experts, who may be selected for their looks, their charisma, and their presentation skills, but certainly not for their incisive minds. For instance, a fallacy that I saw commonly made by a prominent TV financial guru goes as follows. The average American is expected to live 73 years. Therefore, if you are 68, you can expect to live 5 more years and should plan accordingly. She went into precise prescriptions of how the person should invest for a 5 more years horizon. Now, what if you are 80? Is your life expectancy minus 7 years? What these journalists confuse is the unconditional and conditional life expectancy. At birth, your unconditional life expectancy may be 73 years, but as you advance in age and do not die, your life expectancy increases along with your life. Why? Because other people, by dying, have taken your spot in the statistics, for expectation means average. So if you are 73 and are in good health, you may still have, say, 9 years in expectation. But the expectation would change, and at 82, you will have another 5 years, provided, of course, you are still alive. Even someone 100 years old still has a positive conditional life expectation. Such a statement, when one thinks about it, is not too different from the one that says, "Our operation has a mortality rate of 1%. So far, we have operated on 99 patients with great success. You are our 100th. Hence, you have a 100% probability of dying on the table." TV financial plans are quite harmless. What is far more worrying is the supply of information by non-professionals to professionals. It is to the journalists that we next turn. The Bloomberg Explanations. I have on my desk a machine eponymously called a Bloomberg, after the legendary founder Michael Bloomberg. It acts as a safe email service, a news service, an historical data retrieving tool, a charting system, an invaluable analytical aid, and not least, a screen where I can see the price of securities and currencies. I've gotten so addicted to it that I cannot operate without it, as I would otherwise feel cut off from the rest of the world. I use it to get in contact with my friends, confirm appointments, and solve some of those entertaining quarrels that put some sharpness into life. Somehow, traders who do not have a Bloomberg address do not exist for us. They have to have recourse to the more plebeian Internet. But there is one aspect of Bloomberg I would dispense with: the journalist's commentary. Why? Because they engage in explaining things and perpetuate the right column, left column confusion in a serious manner. Bloomberg is not the sole perpetrator. It is just that I have not been exposed to newspapers' business sections over the past decade, preferring to read real prose instead. As I am writing these lines, I see the following headlines on my Bloomberg. Dow is up 1.03 on lower interest rates. Dollar down 0.12 yen on higher Japanese surplus. And so on for an entire page. If I translate it well, the journalist claims to provide an explanation for something that amounts to perfect noise. A move of 1.03 with the Dow at 11,000 constitutes less than a 0.01% move. Such a move does not warrant an explanation. There is nothing there that an honest person can try to explain. There are no reasons to adduce. But like apprentice professors of comparative literature, journalists being paid to provide explanations will gladly and readily provide them. The only solution is for Michael Bloomberg to stop paying his journalists for providing commentary. Significance sample analogy. If you engage in a mountain bike race with a friend across Siberia and a month later beat him by 1 single second, you clearly cannot boast that you are faster than him. You might have been helped by something, or it can be just plain randomness, nothing else. That second is not in itself significant enough for someone to draw conclusions. I would not write in my pre-bedtime diary, "Cyclist A is better than Cyclist B because he is fed with spinach, whereas Cyclist B has a diet rich in tofu. The reason I am making this inference is because he beat him by 1.3 seconds in a 3,000-mile race." Should the difference be 1 week, then I could start analyzing whether tofu is the reason, or if there are other factors. Causality. There is another problem. Even assuming statistical significance, one has to accept a cause and effect, meaning that the event in the market can be linked to the cause proffered. In Latin, post hoc ergo propter hoc. It is the consequence because it came after. Say Hospital A delivered 52% boys, and Hospital B delivered the same year only 48%. Would you try to give the explanation that you had a boy because it was delivered in Hospital A? Causality can be very complex. It is very difficult to isolate a single cause when there are plenty around. This is called multivariate analysis. For instance, if the stock market can react to U.S. domestic interest rates, the dollar against the yen, the dollar against the European currencies, the European stock markets, the United States balance of payments, United States inflation, and another dozen prime factors, then the journalists need to look at all of these factors. Look at their historical effect both in isolation and jointly. Look at the stability of such influence. Then, after consulting the test statistic, isolate the factor if it is possible to do so. Finally, a proper confidence level needs to be given to the factor itself. If it is less than 90%, the story would be dead. I can understand why Hume was extremely obsessed with causality and could not accept such inference anywhere. I have a trick to know if something real in the world is taking place. I have set up my Bloomberg monitor to display the price and percentage change of all relevant prices in the world: currencies, stocks, interest rates, and commodities. By dint of looking at the same setup for years, as I keep the currencies in the upper left corner and the various stock markets on the right, I manage to build an instinctive way of knowing if something serious is going on. The trick is to look only at the large percentage changes. Unless something moves by more than its usual daily percentage change, the event is deemed to be noise. Percentage moves are the size of the headlines. In addition, the interpretation is not linear. A 2% move is not twice as significant an event as 1%. It is, rather, like 4 to 10 times. A 7% move can be several billion times more relevant than a 1% move. The headline of the Dow moving by 1.3 points on my screen today has less than 1/billionth of the significance of the serious 7% drop of October 1997. People might ask me, why do I want everybody to learn some statistics? The answer is that too many people read explanations. We cannot instinctively understand the non-linear aspect of probability. Filtering methods. Clean up the noise from the signal in the data. Did it ever occur to you while talking to your cousin in Australia or the South Pole that the static on your telephone line could be distinguished from the voice of your correspondent? The method is to consider that when a change in amplitude is small, it is more likely to result from noise, with its likelihood of being a signal increasing exponentially as its magnitude increases. The method is called a smoothing kernel. But our auditory system is incapable of performing such a function by itself. Likewise, our brain cannot see the difference between a significant price change and mere noise, particularly when it is pounded with unsmoothed journalistic noise. We do not understand confidence levels. Professionals forget the following reality. It is not the estimate or the forecast that matters so much as the degree of confidence with the opinion. Consider that you are going on a trip one fall morning and need to formulate an idea about the weather conditions prior to packing your luggage. If you expect the temperature to be 60 degrees, plus or minus 10 degrees, say in Arizona, then you would take no snow clothes and no portable electric fan. Now, what if you were going to Chicago, where you are told that the weather, while being 60 degrees, will nevertheless vary by about 30 degrees? You would have to pack winter and summer clothes. Here, the expectation of the temperature carries little importance concerning the choice of clothing. It is the variance that matters. Your decision to pack is markedly different now that you are told that the variability would be around 30 degrees. Now let us push the point further. What if you were going to a planet where the expectation is also going to be around 60 degrees, but plus or minus 500 degrees? What would you pack? We can see that my activity in the market and other random variables depends far less on where I think the market or the random variable is going, so much as it does on the degree of error I allow around such a confidence level. An admission.